Good evening and welcome to the programme. The father of Damilola Taylor has called for a public inquiry after one of his son's killers was recalled to prison for a second time. Ricky Priddle, who was jailed for 8 years for the manslaughter of the schoolboy, broke the terms of his licence and ended back in jail just 16 days after being released. Our political correspondent, Carl Mercer, reports.
Some of the final steps Damilola Taylor ever took have become tragically familiar in the 11 years since he died. So have the images of the grief of his loved ones. But it seems the story of the 10-year-old who died in this stairwell in Peckham is getting no easier for Damilola's family. Today it emerged that one of the brothers convicted of his manslaughter has been returned to jail for a second time. Ricky Priddle was first jailed for Damilola's manslaughter in October 2006. He served nearly 4 years in prison before being released in September 2010. But just 6 months later, he was back in prison after being seen in Southwark and meeting up with gang members. In January this year, he was freed once more, but just 16 days later was again rearrested after breaking the terms of his release. It's led to calls from his father today for a public inquiry, a call backed by the Damilola Taylor Trust.
Well, I think it would bring certainly maybe closure for the Taylor family. They asked right at the outset that these boys, if they were only going to do a short period of time inside, they would be reformed when they came out, and that clearly isn't the case. So we need to know why the system has failed them as much as it's failed the Taylor family.
Others in Peckham today weren't so sure that a public inquiry was necessarily the right way forward.
A public inquiry won't solve anything. I think the individual himself might need help. And I think instead of calling a public inquiry, why don't you get someone to see the individual themselves and see what help they can be given?
So you think this is purely down to the fact that perhaps the help he's had in prison hasn't been up to spec in a way?
He's not ready. He's basically not ready.
Ricky Priddle's immediate future will now be decided by the parole board. The continued uncertainty over it, yet another painful issue for the Taylor family to deal with. Carl Mercer, BBC London News.
Lots more to come tonight.